Welcome back to the You Can Understand Shakespeare podcast, because the fact of the matter is that you can, as long as you overcome to 3 Ps, performance, poetry, and prior knowledge, because those are the things that are holding you back from understanding Shakespeare, and I'm here to help you with them. Sorry I'm going so fast. We are on Act 2, Scene 2 of Hamlet, and it is a gigantic scene full of a lot of very famous moments. So I want to give it due time, but I have somewhere to be in an hour and 45 minutes. And seeing as I took an hour to talk about Act 1, Scene 2, which also had a lot of very famous scenes, I just want to hop right into it. So let's do it. Act 2, Scene 2 of Hamlet. Flourish. There's always a flourish when we're entering court and the king is acting noble. The king and queen are there, as are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. So I have a little note here, and it's kind of interesting. It's that Shakespeare may have thought that these names are characteristically Danish. He's trying to find, oh yeah, these are very Danish names. It says that, for example, an English ambassador dispatched to Elsinore, that is this castle that they're currently at, real-life location, in 1588, sent back a list of Danish statesmen, and that included 1 Rosencrantz and 2 men named Guildenstern. So he's probably like, oh, these are probably really good Danish names. So we're going to figure out who they are in just a second. And the king says, "Welcome, dear Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Moreover, beyond the fact that we much did long to see you, we wanted to see you very badly, the need we have to use you did provoke our hasty sending." So he quickly sent for them. So, as much as we want to see you, we do have some use for you. Something have you heard of Hamlet's transformation, so call it. So they are also, the king and queen are now very aware that Hamlet is putting on this anti-disposition, but they think it's a transformation. They don't realize that it is a type of performance that he's doing. Remember, he said he would do this. It's all part of his plan to somehow avenge his father. We're going to see a lot more of that plan sort of unfold here. So he's called them because they know something of Hamlet's transformation, so called. Sith, meaning since, sith nor the exterior nor the inward man resembles that it was. Sith means since the exterior, the outer part of him, nor the inward man, the inside of him, what he's like personality-wise, resembles that it was. He's not like himself anymore. What it should be more than his father's death, that thus hath put him so much from the understanding of himself I cannot dream of. So he says, like, okay, I know that he had his father's death, but there's something more than that happening. And I don't know what it is, but it's put him so far from himself. He's not feeling like himself. I entreat you, I ask you, I entreat you both that being of so young days, brought up with him, being childhood friends, and sith so neighbored, meaning sith again is since, and sith so neighbored to his youth. So if you think about neighbors, they live like right next door to you. They are close to you. So neighbored to his youth, and havior, meaning that you're very familiar with his age. They're around the same age, they grew up together, and with his behavior, that havior, just behavior, that you vouchsafe your rest here in our court some little time. That vouchsafing your rest means that you agree to stay here in our court, that's his legitimate court, his castle, some little time, so by your companies to draw him on to pleasures, and to gather so much as from occasion you may glean. So draw him onto pleasures is bring him into some happiness, like cheer him up a little bit. We actually do this exact same thing. If, say, like a friend loses a loved one, say, hey, let's get some of their friends, go distract him, go cheer him up a little bit. And furthermore, to gather as much as from occasion, from the opportunity you may glean, whether aught to us unknown afflicts him thus. Whether something aught to us unknown, whether there's something that is unknown to us that afflicts him, that opened, meaning disclosed to us, lies within our remedy. You're gonna figure out what he's so upset about, and if it lies within our remedy, our ability to solve it, good. And the queen adds, "Good gentlemen, he hath much talked of you. And sure I am, 2 men there is not living to whom he more adheres." To whom adhere means to like be stuck to. So he's attached to you. He very much likes you. These are Hamlet's friends. "If it will please you to show us so much gentry, courtesy, and goodwill as to expend your time with us a while for the supply and profit of our hope, in order to provide support for and to further our hope," which is Hamlet's getting better, "your visitation shall receive such thanks as befits a king's remembrance." So we're gonna very much pay you a lot for this. Now, it could be monetary, it could be some other type thing, but a king's remembrance, to have a king remember you, that's a very good thing, especially if he kind of owes you one. So, your visitation shall receive much thanks. Rosencrantz answers, both your majesties might, by the sovereign power you have of us, put your dread pleasures more into command than to entreaty. So they have sovereign power. Sovereignty is the ability to rule and to make choices. So both of your majesties might, by the sovereign power, by the actual legal power you have of us, meaning over us, put your dread or reverend, we talked about dread and reverend, awe and fear and that type of thing before. Pleasures more into command. You could just order us to do this. You don't have to entreat us to do this. And Guildenstern hops in, but we both obey. And this might be a little bit of a character moment if the actors want to seize on this, that maybe Rosencrantz is a little bit more blunt and Guildenstern is a little bit more, let's say, socially aware and sort of like knows how to play it a little bit. Possibly. We'll have to keep an eye out for that as we keep reading them. But we both obey, and here give up ourselves in the full bent to lay our service freely at your feet to be commanded. So we are going to freely give ourselves to be commanded, meaning we're going to give into your treatment. And the only thing about that is that a full bent refers to our fullest capacity. If you have a bow and arrow, if you pull it, it's normally just sort of arced a little bit, but if you pull it to its fullest bend, you've pulled it as far back as it can go, meaning to its greatest capability. The king says, thanks, Rosencrantz and gentle Guildenstern. Queen, thanks, Guildenstern and gentle Rosencrantz. There's just a little bit of a verbal device. It's very, very pleasing. And I beseech you instantly to visit my too much changed son. So I ask you to instantly go visit my too much changed, because remember, he's undergone this transformation. He's not himself. There's that dash, meaning now she's going to address someone else, which means probably some servants. Go, some of you, and bring these gentlemen where Hamlet is. Guildenstern's heavens make our presence and our practices pleasant and helpful to him. The queen agrees. Aye, amen. Exit Rosencrantz and Guildenstern with some attendants. We'll see them soon enough. At which point enters Polonius. Polonius says, the ambassadors from Norway, my good lord, are joyfully returned. We saw them earlier, Cornelius and Voltman. They went to Norway to tell old Uncle Norway, uncle of Fortinbras, young Fortinbras, to stop gathering troops, stop trying to think about reclaiming our land. So they are joyfully returned. We got good news. Thou still hast been the father of good news. And if you have thou still been the father of good news, that means that you have been in the past and continue to be. It's just saying, Polonius, you always bring me good news. Good to have that. Have I, my lord? I assure my good liege, I hold my duty as I hold my soul, both to my God and to my gracious king. So it's very important to follow. My duty is, I place as much value in as my soul. You should value your soul above all else. And so he values his duty more than anything. And I do think, or else this brain of mine hunts not the trail of policy so sure as it hath used to do, that I have found the very cause of Hamlet's lunacy. So he says, I do think, and so if we take out that middle part, in between the commas, I do think that I have found the very cause of Hamlet's lunacy. That makes sense. I think I know why Hamlet's insane. He says, I do think, comma, or else this brain of mine hunts not the trail of policy so sure as it hath used to do. Policy is cleverness. So if my brain is not hunting on the trail of cleverness as surely as it used to do, he's saying, okay, I think I figured it out, or if I have not, then I'm not as clever as I used to be. King says, oh, speak of that. That do I long to hear. He's really interested in knowing why Hamlet has gone insane all of a sudden. And there's a lot of ways that you can play this. Perhaps he genuinely does like Hamlet. Perhaps he genuinely cares for Hamlet. Perhaps Gertrude, Hamlet's mother and his wife, will not stop hounding him about it. Perhaps he suspects that maybe Hamlet is onto something. Whatever it may be, it could be all of them or any mix of them, but he really wants to know, why is Hamlet kind of gone insane? And so Polonius has that answer and he's excited. And Polonius, ever the showman, says, give first admittance, so admit first, to the ambassadors. My news of why Hamlet's insane shall be the fruit to that great feast. The fruit would be the dessert. It might be like, fruit's not a great dessert. Well, yeah, like if you go back to like the early 1600s and you don't have a ton of like super delicatessen gourmet sweets and whatnot, fruit has sugar, and so very much it could be a dessert. And there's still cultures around the world today where like peaches and cream might be a delicious dessert. After all, it's very sweet. So that's just all he means, is that my news is gonna be the cherry on top. We still say that. It's gonna be the cherry on top. All right. King says, thyself do grace to them and bring them in. So you do the grace to them. You extend to them the grace to enter, and you bring them in. So Polonius exit. He turns to Gertrude. He tells me, my dear Gertrude, he hath found the head, which is the origin or the chief part and source of all your son's distemper. Distemper is his temperament that has been dissonance, that has been all changed up. Which is interesting because we thought Gertrude was here, so that's a little note that for some reason Claudius is going to have to tell Gertrude this information. So she wasn't there for some reason. Maybe she was talking to someone else, or it's quite possible that she was there, but now he's just going to say it in this manner in order to talk to Gertrude about what he's just learned. So Queen says, I doubt it is no other but the main. So I doubt means fear or suspect. That is no other than the main matter, his father's death and our hasty marriage. That's, after all, what Hamlet was so upset about to the point of being suicidal in Act 1, Scene 1. So Gertrude knows, and she thinks that it's just a continuance of that there's not some new matter. King says, well, we shall sift him. And to sift is like, if you think about like a sift, it's like you have a sieve. And you maybe don't know what a sieve is. A sieve is where you take, it's a sort of like a strainer. If you ever put pasta and water through a strainer, and larger chunks stay up in the strainer and the water comes through. Now a sieve you would use for sand and whatnot. You'd take a big bunch of sand out of like a riverbed and you'd sift out the sand, and the larger chunks, hopefully of like gold and precious minerals, will remain. So to sift through something means to kind of sort through things, kind of shake out the excess to find the pearls of wisdom. So they're going to interrogate Polonius, because he seems to have the answer. So Polonius enters with the ambassadors Voltimand and Cornelius, and the king welcomes, welcome, my good friends. Say, Voltimand, what from our brother Norway? Probably not actual brothers, but here the note says fellow monarch, but it very well could just be they actually are in some way cousins. I mean, after all the royalty are intermarried and whatnot. Voltimand says, most fair return of greetings and desires. Remember that is what he has asked. He says, what has our brother Norway said? He's given the most fair returns, the most pleasurable, the most becoming, the most beautiful return of greetings. So he also says hello, and he returns your desires, the things that you wanted. Upon when we first raised the matter, he sent out to suppress his nephew's levies, which is the raising of troops. So as soon as we brought up the matter, he suppressed young Fortinbrand's raising of troops, which to him appeared to be a preparation against the Polak. The Polak would be the king of Poland. So the current ruler of Norway goes, oh, I didn't know that this was against you, King Claudius. I thought that my nephew was going to attack Poland. But better looked into, so once he actually looked into the matter, he truly found it was against your highness, whereat grieved that so his sickness, age, and impotence. He was upset that his sickness, age, and impotence was falsely borne in hand. Born means carried, so I mean he was taken advantage of. Because he's old, because he's sick, because he's impotent, into his hand, Fortinbras' hand, he took all these things to use them against Norway. So when it was falsely borne in hand, sends out arrests on Fortinbras. Now this could be, you might initially take, oh, so he arrested his nephew. An arrest just means like to halt something, to stop motion. So he placed out arrests, be like, Fortinbras, stop what you are doing. So it's orders to command him to stop his preparations and presumably to present himself to explain them. So he sends out arrests on Fortinbras, which he, in brief, obeys. Young Fortinbras, in brief, meaning quickly, obeys his uncle's orders. Receives rebuke from Norway. So then Norway, his uncle, rebukes him, says, no, you naughty boy. And in fine, in the end, makes vow before his uncle nevermore to give the essay of arms, to nevermore mount a military challenge. Young Fortinbras has vowed this, to never do this against your majesty. Whereupon old Norway, overcome with joy, gives him 70,000 crowns in annual fee. It's an income, like an allowance. So he says, oh, I'm so happy, I'm going to give you 3 score. A score is 20, so 60,000 crowns, those are like just coins, in annual fee. And his commission, he said, when you commission someone, you give them the mission. So he gives him this annual fee, this annual income, and commissions him to employ those soldiers, so levied as before, against the Polak. So he is going to go fight the Polish. With an entreaty herein further shown that it might please you to give quiet pass through your dominions for this enterprise, on such regards of safety and allowance as therein are set down. So he says, hey, Norway is asking for permission. There's the entreaty. The entreaty herein in this document further shown, so there's more information here, that it might please you to give quiet pass through your dominions. to allow his armies from Norway to pass through Denmark down to Poland. Because if you just think geographically, it would work. And if they're allies, it's like, hey, can we pass our armies through your land? On such regards of safety and allowance, meaning following conditions regarding your realm's safety and subject to your approval, as therein in this document are set down. So you might be going, okay, hey, crisis averted. Voltmont and Cornelius really did a good job. But also now keep in mind that Fortinbras, who wanted to sort of wage war on Claudius, is like, hey, can we maybe take this big army that I wanted to attack with, and we're going to go attack Poland. Yeah, we're going to attack Poland, but can we pass through your lands, actually? Would that be okay if we kind of quietly and without challenge pass through your lands? Think about it. Think about it. At any rate, the king does not think about it, or perhaps he takes it at face value. You trust him and says, it likes us well, meaning it pleases us well. And at our more considered time, we'll read. A more considered time is a time for when you can consider something. We'll read, answer, and think upon this business. So we're going to read it, we're going to answer, and we're going to think more upon this whole business. Meantime, we thank you for your well-took labor. Go to your rest. At night, we'll feast together. Most welcome home. And Voltmont and Cornelius exit. Polonius says, this business is well ended, my liege and madam, to expostulate, which means discuss or dilate, what majesty should be, and what duty is, why day is day, night, night, and time is time, were nothing but to waste night, day, and time. Therefore, brevity is the soul of wit, and tediousness the limbs and outward flourishes. All that is a big introduction. So he says, my liege, my lord, my ruler, and madam, to discuss what majesty is, like, hey, what is majesty? Why is day day? What is duty? These are very high philosophical type things to talk about. And actually, originally, philosophy originated in ancient Greece for the liberal arts. Liberal means free in the literal sense. So in ancient Greece, there's two classes of people. There's a lot more, but the variations and whatnot. But generally, there's the free men, the liberal men, and the slaved men. And it's different than we might think of slavery in some regards, as opposed to like United States slavery with the African slave trade. It was more of a class thing, although it's still not great. At any rate, those who were engaged in servile arts were very interested in production and accomplishing things. They need to build stuff. They need to see towards the production of foods and whatnot. It's very servile. Whereas freedmen were then had time to practice the liberal arts, which is what we still refer to them as. So the idea is that philosophy is a way to spend your free time. The liberal arts nowadays, we still call them like music and acting and whatnot, and painting, all these things. These are liberal arts. But really, it's just whatever you do with your free time, because you are free, liberal, to use it however you like. So he's saying to discuss what majesty is, what duty is, why is day day, why is night night. All of this is nothing. You don't do anything but you waste night, you waste day, you waste time. Therefore, brevity, being brief, is the soul, the center, the animator of wit. Wit is, yeah, it's being clever, it's being funny, but it usually also just means intelligence. So you want to be, if you want to be intelligent, be brief. Notice that's not what he's doing, and he will continue to not do, because he's funny. He's a little bit of this plays fool. So he says, therefore brevity is soul wit, and tediousness, when something's tedious, it is repetitive and annoying, is the limbs of wit, and outward flourishes. Outward flourishes are rhetorical devices. I will be brief. Your noble son is mad. Mad call I it. For to define true madness, what is it but to be nothing else but mad? But let that go. So just when he had originally said, hey, if we're going to wax poetic about what things are, that's a waste of time. And now he's going, but your son, who's mad? What does it mean to be mad? Well, madness, he's waxing poetic. He's wasting time. He's not being brief. But that's because Polonius, very much like some other people involved here, really like to hear the sound of their own voice. Queen says, more matter with less art. Get more to the matter at hand and less art, less rhetorical devices, less philosophy, less liberal arts. The very things that you say waste time. Get to the point, Polonius. Madam, I swear I use no art at all. So I promise I'm getting to the matter. That he's mad, 'tis true. 'Tis true, 'tis pity. It's a pity that it's true. And pity, 'tis true. And then he catches him and goes, a foolish figure. This is a foolish figure of speech. He's just like, he is soaking up the limelight. He loves that he has this. He loves that he has a secret. He's the kind of guy that's going to really just like string you along to soak everything out of this. But farewell to this foolish figure, for I will use no art. I'm not going to use these fancy rhetorical devices, these artistic ways of speaking, because I'm going to be brief. Mad, let us grant him. Mad, let us grant him then. So let us grant that he's mad. And now remains that we find out the cause of this effect. The effect is that he's mad. What's the cause of it? Or rather say the cause of this defect. So again, he's just sort of like kind of making puns. So what's the cause of this effect? Or rather the cause of this defect? Because if he's mad, his mind is not working in the normative manner, which some may call defective. For this effect defective, this consequence showing a lack of something, which is Hamlet's reason, comes by a cause he's circumlocuting. Thus it remains. Thus it remains, meaning thus it remains what the cause is. And the remainder, thus. Perpend means consider. I have a daughter. Have while she is mine, which means while she is mine to have before he gives her away in marriage. So I still have a daughter. Again, not necessary. He loves just sort of like talking in these very flowery ways. Who in her duty and obedience, Mark, meaning listen, hath given me this. So he pulls out a letter. Now gather and surmise. So pay attention. And he reads, to the celestial and my soul's idol, the most beautified Ophelia. And he has to pause to remark on the writing. He says that's an ill phrase, a vile phrase, beautified. Beautified is a vile phrase. Beautified is a vile phrase, meaning it's beautified. Is it a word? Is it a made-up word? It's a vile phrase. So he's just commenting on Hamlet's writing. He's reading a love letter from Hamlet to Ophelia, and he has notes, apparently. But you shall hear thus. Back to reading it. In her excellent white bosom, these, etc. Queen asked, came this from Hamlet to her? Good madam, stay a while. It means wait a while. I will be faithful. Meaning I'm going to accurately read out the letter's contents. And he reads, doubt thou the stars are fire. So you can doubt that the stars are made of fire. Doubt that the sun doth move. You can doubt that the sun moves in its orbit. Doubt truth to be a liar. Meaning you can suspect that there's nothing true. But never doubt I love. Oh, dear Ophelia, I am ill at these numbers. And these numbers means I'm writing it verse. And when you're writing in verse, it's poetry. And poetry, one thing about poetry is that it has rhythm, right? And it has rhythm and what's known as meter. Think of iambic pentameter. A meter is just a rhythm. So, for example, an iamb has 2 beats, an unstressed and a stressed syllable. And if it is repeated 5, that is penta times, then the meter is 5. So an iambic rhythm repeated 5 times, iambic pentameter. So he says, I'm ill at these numbers. He says, I'm bad at writing poetry. That being said, doubt thou the stars are fire, doubt that the sun doth move, doubt truth to be a liar, which, but never doubt I love. That's a pretty good poem. I kind of like that. He says, I have not art to reckon my groans, meaning I do not have the ability to write poetry. I don't have the art of poetry to reckon my groans, to communicate my sighing for want of you, my love sickness, but also to number my groans in meter. All right, because poetry and music they're all kind of numbers. But that I love thee best, oh most best, believe it. So he wants her really to believe that he loves her. We don't know when this was written. It could have been before the events of the play or recently. He says, adieu, which is French for goodbye, thine evermore most dear lady, whilst this machine is to him, Hamlet. Well, this body belongs to him, Hamlet. So I am yours. This is also how we just say, like, yours truly. It just means, like, hey, I am yours, which is a way of saying, like, I'm at your service or I belong to you, especially when you say it in a love letter. So until I die, until my body is no longer mine by death, I am yours, most dear lady. Okay. Polonius finishes reading. Oh, and if it wasn't long enough, I am almost out of battery, so that cannot be good. So just to add a little bit longer, I have to really quickly go grab a charger. Now, I don't have video editing software on my computer, and this would be much too long. So that's why we're just going to have that little break there in the middle where you bear with me for me to plug in my charger. Maybe I should have done that at the beginning going into a super long one. All right, let us continue. So he finishes reading and says, this in obedience hath my daughter shown me, this letter. And more above hath his solicitings, as they fell out by time, by means of my place, all given to mine ear. And more above, meaning in addition to this letter, his solicitings, his trying to sell and sell his love to her. Not maybe literally, but like when you solicit something, you're like, hey, you want to buy this thing from me? As they fell out, as they occurred by time, by means, and by place, were all told to me. The king asked, but how hath she received his love? He's very much trying to court her. How has Ophelia responded? He says, Polonius says, what do you think of me? As of a man faithful and honorable, I would fain prove so. Fain means glad. So I would gladly prove so. But what might you think when I had seen this hot love on the wing, as I perceived it? I must tell you that before my daughter told me. So he must make it clear that he said, oh, I saw this whole love scheme brewing before my daughter ever even told me about it. What might you, or my dear majesty, your queen here, think if I had played the desk or table book? Meaning if I had recorded the perception in my memory but kept it hidden. Or given my heart a working mute and dumb, made my heart effectively silent. Or looked upon his love with idle sight. What might you think? What might you think if I had seen this and noticed it and done nothing? No, I went round to work, meaning I got directly to work, and my young mistress, thus I did bespeak. This is how I addressed my daughter. Quote, Lord Hamlet is a prince out of thy star, meaning above your sphere, above your station. He is too high and noble for you. This must not be. And then I prescripts gave her, a prescription are instructions. Then I prescripts gave her that she should lock herself from his resort, so he cannot visit her. Admit no messengers, receive no tokens, which done, she took the fruits of my advice. So she listened, and the fruits are the consequences. So she took the consequences of my advice. And he repelled, a short tale to make. He's also now spent an entire page telling this story, so he's by no means is he being brief or short. And he repelled, fell into a sadness, then into a fast. He stopped eating from sadness. Thence to a watch, which is an insomnia. He stayed awake, watching during the night. Thence into a weakness, because he stopped sleeping, he got weak. Thence to lightness, which is dizziness. And then by this decline from sad to lightheaded into the madness wherein now he raves, and all we mourn for. All of us are upset by this. The king says, do you think this? And the queen answers, so he addressed her, it may be, it is very likely that this may be. Polonius says, hath there been such a time, I would fain gladly know that I have positively said 'tis so when it proved otherwise. So he's essentially asking, has there been such a time, I would gladly know that I have positively said 'tis so, meaning that this is the way that things are, when it proved otherwise that it was not so? Have I ever steered you wrong before? And the king says, not that I know. Then Polonius indicates his head and his torso. He says, take this, my head, from this, my torso, if this be otherwise. Kill me if there's something else happening. A little bit of foreshadowing, because Polonius is going to die. Spoilers! It's been out for 400 years. You had time to read it. If circumstances lead me, I will find where truth is hid, though it were hid indeed within the center of the earth. So Polonius is always going to seek out the truth, which sounds like a virtue, but we also know that he is nosy and curious to a fault and a bit of a spy. So he has a pretty high opinion of himself. The king says, how may we try it further? How may we test this hypothesis? Polonius says, you know, sometimes he, Hamlet, walks 4 hours together here in the lobby. So apparently Hamlet likes to go on 4-hour walks in the lobby of the castle. Queen, so he does indeed. At such a time, I'll loose my daughter to him. I will let my daughter out to talk to him. Be you and I behind an arras, a wall tapestry. Then mark, meaning watch, the encounter. If he love her not, and be not from his reason fallen thereon, being fallen from his reason on that account of not being loved by her, let me be no assistant for estate, but keep a farm and carters. So, if this is not the reason for why he has fallen, let me not be a servant, an assistant to the state, which is a royal counselor, which he is. Let me not be this any longer. Instead, let me keep a farm and carters, which are wagon drivers. The king says, we will try it. So they're going to set a little bit of a test to see if this is why Hamlet is mad. Hamlet enters, and the queen says, but look where sadly the poor wretch comes reading. So he's got a book. Polonius says, away, I do beseech you both, away. I'll board him presently. Meaning, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna talk to him and figure out some stuff. Oh, give me leave. And say, give me leave is a polite way of asking the king and queen who are above his station. Please grant me the permission of you leaving. So you may do this. And they leave. And now Polonius says, how does my good Lord Hamlet? So how are you? Hamlet says, well, God have mercy. And God have mercy means thank you. It's used with it's used to inferior, so he's addressing his status. And Polonius asks, "Do you know me, my lord?" Which is something you might ask someone if you think that their sanity is not entirely intact. And Hamlet says, "Excellent well, you are a fishmonger." "Not I, my lord." And at a certain level, he's right. He's not a fishmonger. A fishmonger, one who sells fish. But Hamlet is doing that thing where he's a lot smarter than everyone else. A fishmonger is also a name for like a pimp. Someone who is like selling the sexual services of women. So it's a little bit also of an insult. "Not I, my lord, I'm not a fishmonger." Hamlet says, "Then I would you were so honest a man." Remember, whenever someone says "I would," it means I wish that it were so. So, well, okay, if you're not a fishmonger, then I wish that you were so honest a man. And honest a man just means a man of honesty. Or, if not honesty, like a man of integrity, of character. So I wish you were as good of a man as a fishmonger. Wait, John, but didn't you just say that a fishmonger is a little bit like of a disreputable character? Yeah, it is. That's sort of a little bit of the joke here that he's getting in at Polonius' expense. Polonius, being a politician, not very honest, and we do know that. So I wish that you were as reputable and as honest and as a man of integrity as a fishmonger. And Polonius asks, "Honest, my lord?" Hamlet says, "Aye, sir. To be honest as this world goes is to be one man picked out of 10,000. So if you are honest in this world, as this world goes, as the world is the way that it is in our current environment, you are as rare as one man picked out of 10,000 men. So honesty is very rare. It shows Hamlet's opinion on everyone. Polonius says, "That's very true, my lord." Hamlet then continues with a little bit of his feigned madness, which is why this can be a little bit difficult to read. He's kind of dancing circles around Polonius intelligently, but he's also trying to appear mad. So he says, "For if the sun breeds maggots in a dead dog, being a good kissing carrion, have you a daughter?" And we might read that and go like, "What?" And I myself was like, okay, I gotta understand this. So essentially, what this means, if something is good kissing carrion, that means carrion is dead meat, right? And if it's flesh, all right? And so if it's good kissing carrion, then that means that is a piece of flesh good for kissing. Okay, now what is that piece of flesh? He's talking about the dead dog. Now, there was this belief that dead matter, just dead flesh, would breed maggots. They didn't know it was flies laying eggs as larvae. They just thought once something's dead, maggots, little worms, start to grow in it. And they especially believe that if you put sunlight on dead on dead flesh, that maggots breed. So he says, well, if the sun breeds, and that is important, breeds little worms in a dead dog, being a good kissing carrion, being a good piece of meat for kissing, and then he asks, have you a daughter? And this is all related together. Because good kissing carrion, a piece of flesh that's good for kissing. Well, who do we know in Hamlet's world that Hamlet might consider good for kissing? And if we're being very derogatory, who is a good piece of flesh for kissing? Well, that'd be Ophelia, which is also Polonius' daughter. Have you a daughter? Now, let's keep reading a little bit, and this all makes sense. He says, I have, my lord, meaning I have a daughter. And he says, let her not walk i' the sun, meaning walk out in public. But also, go back to what we just said, that the sun breeds maggots in a dead dog, which is good kissing carrion. So your daughter, which is good kissing carrion, all right, don't let her out in the sun because then she might breed maggots. So little worms, might grow in her. Now think again of the very first time that we have this pun of sun, when Hamlet is too much in the sun. S-U-N, but also S-O-N. So let her not walk i' the sun, also let her not consort with me. Because just as the sun breeds maggots in this dead dog, so the sun might create life within this piece of flesh. Conception, the ability to form ideas, but also pregnancy, is a blessing. But as your daughter may conceive, friend, look to it, take care. As your daughter may conceive, may get pregnant, right? So there's multiple things here. Hamlet is the son of King Hamlet. But then the sun brings maggots into dead dogs, which is good kissing carrion, which is dead meat. It's talking about getting his daughter pregnant, but it's also referring to her as a dead dog. There's lots of different levels here, but it all sounds insane. All right. And I might say, why is he doing that? Well, he likes to really harp on Ophelia, and he also really likes to mess with Polonius, right? And he's talking about getting his daughter pregnant. So he says, oh, look to it, take care that your daughter, a good piece of kissing carrion, does not walk in the sun. Lest all this happens. And Polonius has an aside. And aside is where he addresses us. So Hamlet can't hear it and says, "How say you by that? Still harping on my daughter." So he's still talking about my daughter. Interesting. "Yet he knew me not at first. He didn't know who I was. I said I was a fishmonger. I was far gone." And that apostrophe always means he. "I was far gone, and truly in my youth I suffered much extremity for love, very near this." So he is far gone in love. And Polonius says, yeah, when I was young, I also suffered in extremity for love, very near this, meaning I myself had gone nearly as mad for love when I was a kid. I'll speak to him again. And then there's that dash which lets us know that we have left the aside. "What do you read, my lord?" Because remember, the queen said he's entered reading. And Hamlet enters words, 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 which is actually, believe it or not, a pretty famous line. So what are you reading? You're reading words. And Polonius says, "What is the matter, my lord?" And matter means content. So like, what is the matter at hand in your book? But Hamlet takes matter in terms of what we might say, like, what is the matter? If something's wrong, I say, "Hey, what is the matter? What is the matter, my lord?" And Hamlet goes, "Between who? What is the matter between who? What two parties?" And Polonius clarifies, "I mean the matter that you read, my lord, the subject of what you're reading." And Hamlet is now going to answer. He says, "Slanders, sir." So he's reading something that is slander, which are lies told against individuals. "I'm reading lies told against individuals, sir. For the satirical rogue says here," a rogue is a scoundrel, a villain, the author in this case. And he's satirical, meaning he's engaging in satire, where you say something that's not true in order to illustrate a point. So the satirical rogue says here in his book that old men have gray beards, and that their faces are wrinkled, their eyes purging, which means discharging, thick amber, which amber is like comes out of a tree. So their eyes are purging thick. It's like the gunk and the goo that comes out of older people's eyes. "And plum tree gum, and that they have a plentiful lack of wit, of intellect, together with most weak hams." They plentifully lack, meaning they do not have wit, they're not intelligent, and they have weak hamstrings, thighs. They have weak bodies. "All which, sir, though I most powerfully and potently believe," meanings that, like, hey, I believe that all of this is true. "Yet I hold it not honesty," meaning honorable, "to have it thus set down. For yourself, sir, shall grow old as I am, if, like a crab, you could go backwards." All of this is now a dig at Polonius. It sounds insane. He's saying, I'm reading slanders. He's saying, hey, what's this book talking about? It's talking about old people. And who's Polonius? He's a little old. So he's saying that old people, they have gray beards, their faces are wrinkled, they're purging amber from their eyes, they're stupid, they have weak hamstrings. And he says, all of which, sir, I most powerfully and potently do believe. But I don't think it's honest, or I don't think it's right to have it written down. "For yourself, sir, shall grow old as I am." Hamlet's younger than him. "If, like a crab, you could go backwards." Crabs, the crab walk, right? "If you could go back through time, then you could go young as me." You're the old person I'm talking about. Polonius has another aside. "Though this be madness, yet there is method in it." And that's where we get the phrase, there's method to the madness. Which is, he's catching on like, there's some intelligence in here. He's saying something, even though he is mad. And he says, "Will you walk out of the air, my lord?" And this means that outdoor air was regarded as a hazard for the sick. Now, it says here that Polonius may mean out of the drafts, since the scene seems to be set indoors. And Hamlet, when asked if he'll walk out of the air, says, "Into my grave." And Polonius says, "Indeed, that's out of the air." And now he says again to himself, how pregnant, which means full of something, how meaningful sometimes his replies are. A happiness, which means that it's appropriate, that often madness hits on, which reason and sanctity could not so prosperously be delivered of. Reason and sanctity, virtue. It also has, there's also a different reading in the folio, it means sanity. So there's an appropriateness that often madness hits on. That madness oftentimes kind of gets to the heart of something and communicates it appropriately, which reason and virtue could not so successfully tell, being intelligent or virtuous or sane. "I will leave him," and then here, the folio has the following lines, but they're not found in the second quarto. First folio, second quarto, don't worry about it. Some people love it, but it's not important. So he says, "I will leave him and suddenly," meaning immediately, "contrive the means of meeting between him and my daughter." So he's going to contrive the means for them to meet. He's going to come up with the plan for them to meet, the very plan that he told to King Claudius. Great. So he says, my lord, I will take my leave of you. So I'm going to leave from you. He says, you cannot take from me anything that I will not more willingly part withal, which means with. So he's doing some punna. I will take my leave. He's like, oh, no, you can't take anything from me because anything that you would take, I would give. Except for my life. Except my life. Except my life. Except my life. So you cannot take my life that I would not more. You cannot take from me anything that I would not more willingly part withal, meaning anything that I would more gladly give to you except for my life. Polonius, fare you well, my lord. Hamlet says, these tedious old fools. At which point enter Guildenstern and Rosencrantz. And Polonius addresses them and says, you go to seek the Lord Hamlet? There he is. And as a farewell, Rosencrantz says to Polonius, God save you, sir. And you know what? I did that little look ahead, and there's still like 4 page turns, so this will be way too long. So we're actually going to cut this in half for the first time, and we will have another video coming out soon where we pick up with part 2 of Act 2, Scene 2. Looking forward to talking to you then.